Secret frequencies, dark chosen ones, activate within toxic families. There's a moment in every dark chosen one's life when the silence of the family dinner table becomes deafening. Not because no one's speaking, but because everything being said is a lie. It's not always obvious. The lies are often buried beneath politeness, tradition, and unspoken agreements. But you feel it, you always have. It's like your very presence disrupts the energy in the room. Maybe you've been told you're too intense, too sensitive, too dramatic, or too rebellious. But what if I told you that your discomfort in your own family wasn't a flaw, it was the activation of your true frequency? You see, toxic families are not always loud and violent. Sometimes they're soft and smiling, while drowning you in emotional manipulation, guilt, passive aggression, and spiritual amnesia. And you, yes you, were born into it as a disruptor. The dark chosen one is not the golden child, they're not the favorite, they're not the one who fits in. They are the mirror, the trigger, the one who carries the frequency that forces shadows to surface. And that's why from a young age you were labeled different, not because you were wrong, but because you were dangerous to the illusion.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Let me tell you something almost no one talks about. Families operate like energetic systems. They hold patterns, codes, and unspoken contracts passed down through generations. Some families carry the frequency of silence. Others control, others shame, and most of the time those frequencies remain uninterrupted until you arrive. Your soul didn't come into your family to be loved. It came to awaken. That's why love feels conditional. That's why you've always felt like you were on the outside of something you were born into. You didn't come here to belong. You came here to break the cycle. But what exactly is this secret frequency you carry? It's not just truth. It's not just emotional intelligence. It's spiritual interference. You are encoded with a vibration that doesn't match the inherited dysfunction. And because energy seeks harmony, the system either tries to change you or eject you. That's why your presence often creates conflict, even when you're trying to be peaceful. That's why people in your family rewrite history to make you the problem, because the problem isn't what you've done, the problem is what you are. And the more awake you become, the more unstable the family matrix becomes. You start seeing the roles everyone plays: the narcissist, the enabler, the victim, the golden child, and suddenly their entire performance starts to unravel. You stop reacting the way they expect. You stop apologizing for things you didn't do. You stop playing the role. And that's when the attacks begin, not always verbal, but energetic. Coldness, gaslighting, emotional withdrawal. Why? Because the system can no longer control you, and a dark chosen one who can't be controlled is a threat to the entire illusion. So what do? You stay awake. You stay grounded in your truth, even when it shakes the room. You stop trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. You realize that your job is not to heal your family, it's to heal yourself, and in doing so, shift the frequency of the entire bloodline. Because make no mistake, when you break a generational curse, it doesn't go quietly. It screams. It disguises itself as love. It wants you to believe that peace means silence, that loyalty means obedience. But you know better now. You were not born to be loyal to dysfunction. You were born to liberate yourself from it. Have you ever wondered why your pain has always been deeper, why your sadness feels ancient, why your joy feels like rebellion? It's because your soul is older than the lies, and every time you choose truth over comfort, you activate the frequency that begins to recode the system. You are not just healing yourself, you are rewriting the energetic DNA of your lineage. But that doesn't happen without resistance. There will be moments when you feel alone, when your own family turns against you, when they call you delusional, ungrateful, or selfish. But let me ask you something profound. What if the very thing they reject in you is the part of them that is still asleep? What if your presence triggers them, not because you're wrong, but because you're right, and they're not ready to face that? This isn't about blame, it's about frequency. Your presence holds a vibration that exposes every lie they've agreed to live with. That's not comfortable, that's not easy, but it's necessary. You are the wild card in the family soul contract, the one who said no more, the one who came to remember when everyone else forgot, and that remembering, it's contagious. Even if they don't change immediately, your energy plants seeds of doubt in the illusion, seeds of awakening in the silence. But be warned, the more you activate this frequency, the more tests you'll face, emotional manipulation will intensify, old wounds will resurface. The system will try to pull you back in with guilt, nostalgia, or even fake reconciliation. But you'll know, you'll feel it in your body, the tightness in your chest, the contraction in your gut. Those are your cues. That's your inner guidance reminding you you're not here to go back, you're here to go beyond. You won't get applause for doing this work, you might not get closure, you might lose people who share your blood but not your truth, but in losing them, you gain you. And when you gain you, your real self, your full self, you become unstoppable. You become the ancestor your descendants will thank. You become the living proof that pain doesn't have to become legacy, that trauma can end with you, that love, real, fierce, conscious love, can begin with you. And so I ask you now, with all the weight of your knowing, are you willing to be the one who ends the cycle, even if it means standing alone? Because if you are, your frequency has already begun to shift everything. The veil shatters, how dark chosen ones trigger hidden truths in every family member. Something most people never realize. In every toxic family, there's one soul whose mere existence begins to shake the illusion. That soul is not loud by nature, but their silence speaks volumes. Their eyes see what others pretend not to. Their energy carries codes that disrupt the ancestral scripts. That soul is the dark chosen one, and when they stop playing the role assigned to them, when they stop pretending, stop pleasing, stop participating in the great family performance, the veil shatters. One by one, the lies start to scream. And even if no one admits it out loud, everyone feels it. Let's be clear, you didn't choose to be a threat. You didn't wake up one day and decide to challenge the emotional architecture of your family. You were born this way, wired differently, programmed to perceive deeply. You saw the cracks in the foundation before you even had language for it. You noticed the way people avoided truth, masked pain with performance, and used love as leverage. And even before you could explain it, you felt it, you knew, and that knowing made you dangerous. Not because you were wrong, but because you were right before they were ready. What most don't understand is that truth is not just spoken, it's transmitted, and your frequency transmits truth, whether you mean to or not. That's why your presence makes people uncomfortable. That's why family members get defensive around you, even when you haven't said a word. You are an energetic disruptor. Your very existence activates the dormant guilt, shame, grief, and rage buried inside others. You don't have to accuse them. Your being becomes the accusation, the unspoken question that lingers in the air. What are you pretending not to feel? This is where things get deep, because when you stop playing your assigned family role, whether it was the scapegoat, the emotional caretaker, the invisible one, something profound happens. The whole system begins to panic. The narcissist loses control. The enabler loses purpose. The golden child loses contrast. And what once looked like balance now becomes unmasked as codependence. You've pulled a thread and everything starts to unravel, not because you're cruel, but because you're clear, and clarity is a form of power that toxic systems cannot survive in. But here's the part that might surprise you. When the veil shatters, it doesn't just destroy, it reveals. The cracks you expose in others don't just hurt them, they wake them. Maybe not immediately, maybe not consciously, but your refusal to play along becomes a mirror they can't unsee. Your healing becomes a roadmap they never knew they needed. Your boundaries, your silence, your absence, it all becomes a message. There's another way to live. Have you ever noticed how after you walk away, certain family members begin to change in subtle ways? Maybe they start questioning the narcissist. Maybe they begin their own therapy journey. Maybe they finally admit what really happened when you were young. That's not coincidence. That's your frequency doing its work. Even from a distance, the dark chosen ones continue to activate truth in others. You're like a spiritual detonation, quiet at first, but irreversible once it begins. And yet, this path is excruciating, because you rarely get the credit. Most of your family will never thank you. Some will hate you for it. Others will pretend you never existed. But deep down, they know. They feel the shift. They feel the weight of their own unprocessed truths pressing against the walls of their denial. And whether they admit it or not, your presence has changed them forever. Let me ask you something only your soul can answer. Are you willing to be misunderstood in exchange for being the one who plants the seed of transformation in your entire bloodline? That's the choice every dark chosen one faces, to be the one who sees what others refuse to see, to speak what others are afraid to say, to walk away when everyone else stays frozen in generational fear. This isn't about revenge. It's about revelation. You didn't come to punish your family, you came to awaken them. But awakening isn't soft, it's not a gentle nudge, it's a rupture, a quake, a spiritual confrontation that begins with your refusal to lie to yourself any longer. And when you stop lying to yourself, you can no longer lie for them. So when you feel the loneliness creeping in, when the guilt whispers, when the silence feels like exile, remember this: you are not being cast out. You are being set apart, because your frequency was never meant to blend in. It was meant to break through. The alchemist of ancestral pain, transmuting generational trauma into spiritual gold. There's an ancient truth hidden in the life of every dark chosen one. You didn't just inherit your family's blood, you inherited their pain. The buried stories, the unspoken betrayals, the shame that was swept under the rug for generations. It all lives in your nervous system. It pulses through your dreams, whispers through your intuition, and twists itself into your emotions like vines from another lifetime. But unlike those who came before you, you didn't come here to carry it, you came here to transform it. You are the alchemist of your lineage, the one who turns poison into medicine, not through denial or suppression, but through a sacred confrontation with the very energies your ancestors couldn't face. That is why your suffering has always felt deeper, why your inner world has always been louder than the outer one, because your soul signed a contract long before you were born. I will end what they could not. And that contract activated the moment you realized that your pain wasn't just personal, it was ancestral. But transmuting trauma is not glamorous. It's not a poetic Instagram quote or a weekend retreat. It's raw, it's ugly, it's sacred work done in the dark, usually alone, where no one claps and no one sees. It's the moment you choose not to yell back, even when your inner child is screaming. It's the moment you write the letter you'll never send, just to reclaim your voice. It's the breath you take before breaking the generational pattern of silence, addiction, or emotional abandonment. Every time you choose healing over reaction, you're not just changing your story. You're rewriting the past in a way that ripples through time. Think about that. Your healing echoes backward. It touches the soul of your grandmother who was silenced. It reaches the father who never knew how to love without control. It even whispers to the child version of your mother who once begged for a safety she never received. Your work is multidimensional. It is spiritual activism at the highest level. You are not healing just for yourself. You are becoming the event that shifts the entire frequency of your bloodline. But let's be honest, this transformation doesn't come without cost. The more you claim your truth, the more you may be accused of rewriting history. Those still caught in the trauma field will say, "It wasn't that bad," or "Why are you still bringing this up?" They'll minimize, deflect, deny, because your truth is a mirror, and mirrors are painful to those who aren't ready to see themselves. But just because they won't validate your experience doesn't mean it's not real. In fact, the resistance is proof that you're touching the root. You might wonder, why me? Why was I chosen to carry this weight when others got to live unaware? It's simple. You were strong enough. You were awake enough. And more importantly, you were willing. Willing to feel it all. To sit with the rage, the grief, the shame that others buried, to become a vessel for its transmutation, not by force, but through presence. Because healing doesn't always look like fixing. Sometimes it looks like feeling deeply, honestly, without flinching. That's what makes you an alchemist. You don't just endure pain, you process it. You don't just repeat the pattern, you deconstruct it. You don't just run from the fire, you become it, letting it burn away the falsehoods until all that remains is gold. And that gold isn't just for you, it becomes your wisdom, your vibration, your medicine. It seeps into your voice when you speak truth. It shines in your eyes when you see someone else's pain. It radiates in your presence, silently telling others, you can be free too. Have you ever felt like the emotions you've been carrying weren't completely yours? Like you were grieving things you never experienced, or feeling rage from stories you never lived? That's because your field is wide, your consciousness is deep, you are feeling the echoes of ancestral pain, and yet, instead of being crushed by it, You are recycling it into power. You are taking what was once heavy and making it holy. So I ask you, with all the courage in your heart, what would happen if you fully embraced your role as the alchemist of your bloodline? What if you stopped trying to be understood and started focusing on being transformed? What if your very life is the ritual that your ancestors have been waiting for? You are not just breaking the chain, you are forging a new one, made not of trauma, but of truth, not of pain, but of purpose, not of survival, but of sovereignty, the frequency of liberation, becoming the blueprint for future generations. By now you've felt the weight of what it means to be a dark chosen one, not as a title but as a lived reality. The nights you cried without knowing why, the families you tried to love while they rejected you, the healing you chased that no one clapped for. But through every betrayal, every silence, every inner war, you've been becoming something rare. You've been becoming free. And now you stand at the edge of a threshold that few ever reach. The frequency of liberation. Liberation doesn't look like victory in the traditional sense. It's not a parade or a title. It's not even about being seen. It's about living in such deep alignment with truth that you no longer seek permission to exist. It's about being so grounded in your authenticity that no projection, no rejection, and no manipulation can shake your core. That is the frequency you're stepping into, and once you're in it, you don't just heal, you become the blueprint for others to follow. You see every step you take in truth. You carve a new path through the collective unconscious. You create a new energetic roadmap for those born after you. That's why the work you've done matters. That's why your boundaries, your silence, your rebellion, they all matter, not just for you, but for the children yet to come. Because when you refuse to pass down the trauma, you gift them something priceless, a clean slate. Think about that. You may never get an apology from your parents. You may never reconcile with the people who hurt you, but your healing is not about them. It's about who comes after. It's about your future child, niece, nephew, or even stranger you'll never meet, who will grow up in a world slightly freer because you did the work. That's legacy. That's impact. That's spiritual wealth. And don't be surprised if your path becomes quieter at this point. Liberation is not loud. It's not performative. It's peaceful. It's still. You don't need to fight anymore because you've already won. You've reclaimed your voice. You've reclaimed your mind. You've reclaimed your soul. And though the world may never understand the cost, you will feel the reward in every breath that no longer trembles, in every choice that no longer betrays your heart. So I ask you, one last time, the deepest question of all. What kind of world are you willing to build now that you are free? Because freedom is not the end of the journey, it's the beginning of creation. Now that you've broken the chains, what will you write? What will you love? What will you teach? Not through words, but through the silent integrity of your life. You are no longer just the one who saw the truth. You are the one who became it. And in doing so, you become the very thing your ancestors prayed for. You are the answer to 1,000 silent prayers, the light that emerged from generations of shadow, the blueprint that says, "It ends with me, and something new begins now." This is your liberation. This is your legacy.